Hey guys, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. So we're a little late on the live stream today. The texts are not going out today and yesterday because primarily because of all the election craziness, right? So you get a lot of text messages bombing people, and they start junking out of those things, and they just shut everything down for a day or two. So if you got it by email, then you're seeing this, and if you see it later, you can just watch the replay. Not going to be a lot going on today anyways. So today's Fed day. So at 2 o'clock, the whole world goes to hell for a while because we're going to see some big swings in the indices based on the Fed decision that happens every time. It's, going back 30 years that I've been doing this. It is the most predictable thing about the markets is it's going to get real unpredictable when that Fed announcement comes out. And what tends to happen is futures margin gets tightened up. So if you're trading the indices, you're going to have some tight stops on your futures trades because they're going to tighten them up for you if you didn't tighten them already. And the margin decreases, so you wind up getting stopped out of positions that you wouldn't normally stop out of, but them's the breaks. So with that said, let's take a look at what we're doing this morning. Had some questions about some of the volatility band levels that we've been setting up in the room. A friend of mine here, Eric, is asking about what's next, what to do next with these guys. So I think it warrants just going in and having a peek at where we are, what we're doing, and just bear in mind it's going to be right up until 2 o'clock, and at 2 o'clock we turn into pumpkins for a while. So here they are. Here is the QQQ, and you can see that we had a little bit of a pop on the open today, and it was the triple Qs were the ones that had sort of the most benefit from things just sort of settling in overnight, and from some of the election craziness just stopping as far as the futures goes. The futures just go off they start bouncing around really, really heavily when everybody relaxes and says, okay, we know what's happening in Washington. Everything is done. Everything came out well. Everything is peaceful, right? There wasn't any kind of problem. So the futures yesterday shot higher. Today, everything opened in line. So we had an inline open on the Dow Jones Industrial Average, a little bit of a gap higher on the S&P 500, a little bit of a gap higher on the comp, on the NASDAQ comp. But generally speaking, so what we're looking at here today is some pretty good trading opportunities if you've got the margin. So if you've got one of these accounts set up and you're using a lower dollar value to fund the account because you're getting good margin, then what you want to bear in mind is that on a Fed day or right after the election here, the margin gets tightened up. So here's what we've got. We are up in this travel range, and you can see that we've got a bunch of ranges defined here and a bunch of levels defined that we've been looking at. As it comes down and it hits these threshold levels, what I'm really hoping for is a move back down into here. If we get a move back down to there, then I'll take a look at the futures and trade the NQ on this, or maybe the triple Q, since, as I said, leverage is a mess today. But what we're doing nicely is tracking inside this set of 2SD bands. So from the top band down to the fulcrum, down to this. Let me just close this chat box here. Hold on one second. Okay, hold off on the text right now. Hold off on the chats there in the room, so we can just wrap this up. The travel range back down into the mean has been pretty predictable over the course of the session so far. So you can see here that as things have been developing, we keep going up to the 2SD from that mean, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and that actually then corresponds to this range right here. So that's an opportunity for a trade if you're looking for the QQQ and the NQ. Now let's look at the question du jour here about what's happening with the Magnificent Seven. So these guys are going to, for all intents and purposes, I'm assuming that going into 2 p.m., we're going to see a little bit of a stall. And the stall happens pretty much every time that we have an FOMC announcement. Things are going to slow down, and then things are going to get kind of wild. right here, right now, I'm seeing that, you know, most everything is trading above that VWAP. So if you look at the VWAP, then if you guys could just hold off on the chat for a minute here. If you could just hold off on entering things into the chat until we finish this, then we can get this done and it'll be out there and we can get back to the room. Okay, so we've got everything tracking up above the VWAPs. You can see here Amazon keeps coming down to that blue pivot line. Once we hit the blue pivot, 204 up to 210.51, that's a nice opportunity for a profit. So if you're not on the live stream and you're just watching this in the room, again, don't use the chat right now. If you're down to 210.04 and you're on that blue pivot line, then the entry was the blue pivot and the target is that 210.51 level. So about 50 cents per share on Amazon as it makes this move right here. You know, this bundled up move down inside of here. Once we get below that VWAP, the best expectancy, of course, is going to be that we're going to get up to the VWAP from our threshold level. So 210.04, we've got a nice volume by price cluster, and then up above we have that 210.51 natural support and resistance line that we drew earlier, and we've also got the volume weighted average price for the session. So that is then the game plan on Amazon. That's what I've been doing with it. So out and long again here, and this will be the second time on that. So right now I've just got it set up for a scratch stop right below there. If we come back down and start drifting below the blue pivot. On Meta, if we get down into this 588.22 threshold level, that'll get us down into the volume weighted average price and get us into this volume by price data here, gets us into the 588.22 threshold level. Now look at the long side on that. You know, Microsoft is a little bit loose this morning for me, but NVIDIA is a beauty. So NVIDIA has been, you know, set right around that 147.78 threshold line. I'm going to say that it's got some inside overhead here at 148.10. So if you can see that, just open that up a little bit. At that 148.10 line overhead there, you know, it's having a little bit of a hard time traveling beyond that, about 25 or 30 cents there, but you can do it over and over, and that's great. Tesla is, you know, this one isn't getting down to the level that I'm looking for. I am looking at 296.43, and you know, if we get down there, maybe 296.50, I'll look for a long trade up to 298.55. Again, all of this against the backdrop that, you know, today is going to be the kind of a day that's going to be a slow day. It's going to get into the latter part of the session, and once we do get into the latter part of the session, you know, you can expect to see at about 2 p.m. that these indices are going to start just hammering back and forth. And, you know, once we get this wave of swings in place, once we get this 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2, 3, 4 or whatever it's going to be happening, then, you know, then it'll settle in, it'll sort of pick a trend for the rest of the day. But for all intents and purposes, 2 p.m. today, we turn into pumpkins. So let's see if there's opportunity. Let's see if these guys come back into these levels. Microsoft maybe down into 423.58 for a long, but you know, NVIDIA is still drifting around in that range. Amazon took us out right below the entry price, right below that 210.04 entry. So I'm going to let that one go and look for a 209.32 entry on the next go around. If it comes down there, I'll try it one more time. But we are south of the VWAP now, and once we're south of the VWAP by that much, you know, I think the prevailing trend might be that we start drifting back down into the range going into the Fed announcement. All right. So that is my 2 cents for what I think is going to go on here. And as I said, most likely what we're going to see is that these indices really start sort of tracking sideways, that the market starts tracking sideways because of the Fed announcement being, you know, just sort of looming here. And then don't forget that after the Fed announcement, you're going to get Powell talking, and, you know, you're going to get that market just goes somewhere to die kind of a thing, unless he says something that's extremely optimistic or extremely pessimistic. Don't expect too much in terms of volatile price action or extreme price action that we can grab hold of and trade. So today might be a slow one. I'll see everybody back here tomorrow. Hey, have a great day. Don't overtrade, and for God's sake, sit on your hands. Hands are to be used as a seat cushion during that Fed announcement period. So about 2 o'clock to 2:15, you really shouldn't be doing anything. All right, have a great day.